I know what you're thinking. He was doing this on his last video. I think it's going to be the way for a while. I'm going to take another meter out of here and remove this material, and that'll continue my recovery of grass areas to something else that's lower maintenance. Right, I'll get on and do this meter. There we are, 1 meter at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Take me just over a week to get this strip done at that rate. That's fine, I'm in no hurry. Right, got to get away with this spoil now. I know where it's going. Well, you get to this point of the season and you can sort of conclude whether or not you've had a successful tomato season, or at least I can. And I have to say it's been bumper. So these latar bushes, as scrawny as some of them have got without some support, they've just kept on producing, and there's a dearth of tomatoes in here today. And well, we've done enough of our pasta sauces to last us through the winter. At least Mrs. K says 1 more batch, so I'm going to make 1 more picking today out of here. It's going to be enormous because there is so many red tomatoes. And then pick a little bit of the basil, which I think after that this basil will be destined for the compost heap. Again, we've got a plentiful supply to last us. And the tomatoes, well, they'll keep going. There's still going to be more crops and we'll use so many more of them fresh. But our first sort of port of call is getting the storage of pasta sauce and tomato sauces for the winter. So I'm going to do myself a work round and harvest of our tomatoes. Pretty amazing, really. It's about 2.5, 3 inches deep of tomatoes. Absolutely fantastic. And we can use the bigger ones for salad, and all the rest can go to make that pasta sauce, and there's some lovely tomatoes in there. And I haven't touched the aromas. Just look at these. Absolutely fantastic. I think we'll keep those and see what Mrs. K wants to do with them. Perhaps something a bit special because they look lovely. Right, carrots are looking good. Everything else is fine. We've got plenty of cucumbers. In fact, more than we need. But I am going to see a friend tomorrow, so I think we'll have one of those. I have had a few more caterpillars on my purple sprouting broccoli, but I think I'm winning. I can see one there. Little devils. So I'm going to get those out pretty soon. I've said that before, I know, but you know what it's like. Right, I'm going to pick a bit of basil and then go and have a look at the courgettes. Well, who would have thought they got a sort of slow start, these pumpkins and squash, and I was a bit anxious about them. And to be honest, of all the plants that were watered during the hot spell, this wasn't one of them. They were clearly showing that they were coping fine on their own, so other things became the priority. But foliage is massive, and there's quite a lot of squash and pumpkins underneath that foliage. Well, I'm in here for courgettes, and I'll harvest those and then show you what's about. And some of the courgettes in here are just, well, they're marrows really. Now this plant here, I don't know whether you can remember, but I basically gave up because it wasn't doing well, and now it's producing massive courgettes, and they really are enormous. In fact, there's 1 or 2 that are just not practical for use, but hey, as long as we get a good supply of courgettes coming off them, then I'm happy. I'll take these, and I'll probably take a couple for friends. Have a bit of an explore. So I've just taken one fruit off of this courgette, and there's at least two and a lot of flowers coming after that. Over into here, this is the healthiest of the plants, and I've had most of the courgettes off of here, to be fair, but there's another one developing. And in here is the monster. Just ridiculous, look at that. That's got to be nearly 2 foot long, and there's a lot of courgettes coming off there as well. So that's the courgettes. This is a small sugar that never really got going and still hasn't. In here, 1, 2, 3 that are really doing well. 4, 5. Just move that leaf. Yep, 5, 6. And then there's a few in here that have gone yellow and will drop off because they weren't pollinated. So that's 6 on that plant, and I think that's a winter luxury. Move along and you get another plant. There's one there, nothing much down here. Another one there, looks like something different. And there's a bigger version of it. I can see through there another pumpkin. And then we're on to this other courgette, which has got 1, 2, 3. They're really big fruits, and a couple of small ones developing. And then this one, yeah, got one in there. And we've been down that line, so let's go down this one. So this is a completely different type of pumpkin or courgette. That one's got sort of striata on it. And then we've got a lovely orange one there. And then I've just let it go wild. And we've got lots of these little ones that have developed. There's another one in there. I think that might be the sort of Munchkin small variety. And I think I can see a flash of yellow down there. I can. And let's tackle this other plant or two from this side. We've got one developing there. Not a lot else in there. Not a great deal in there. And then back here, yeah, we got, this is small sugar for sure. That's developing lovely. And yeah, we've got one in there as well. And probably, yeah, I can see them. Just get down and in here. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, just oodles of them. So it's going to be another great squash and pumpkin season. And it surprises me because it was such a difficult start. And well, as you know, a very, very dry summer, at least long periods of dryness. But all seems well in the squash and pumpkin garden. Well, by the magic of editing, we're a couple of days on from what you've been viewing earlier on in this video. And since then, I've had quite a lot of comments asking me why I'm not doing various things with this path as an alternative to just taking the grass off the top. Well, you could quite easily put a layer of cardboard down. You could put the membrane just on the top of it and not really worry about the grass. But in this particular case, I need this a little bit lower than it is because I took the levels out on the paths around the beds, and this is just remaining a little bit higher. So in the interest of getting it down and removing the grass in one go, I'm taking this approach. So all those alternative suggestions make perfect sense, but not what I'm going to do in this circumstance. So I'm going to take another square metre away, as has been my habit over the last week or so, and then we've got a few more things to get on with. I've been promising myself I'm going to do this for a little while now, but to be honest, there is no better time. Right at this moment, you can see that the newest growth on these raspberries is lush, covered in leaves, and easily identifiable from these rather desolate, dry looking, well, outshoots I suppose they are, original this year's growth that's bared fruit and now is dying. And of course next year's fruit on summer fruiting raspberries will be on this lovely new lush growth. So whilst I can identify it clearly, because these leaves will drop, I'm going to go around and take out all these dying stems, and then I know that for next season all I will have is fruiting stems, which will be fantastic. And there's an awful lot of this stuff. When you look, I mean, we've had a great crop, so it's not surprising, but when you look at each plant, there's certainly plenty of these dead stems to take out, and I'm going to work my way down one side, up the other, and you can see what's left, and it will just be the bits that are going to bear fruit next year, which will be fantastic. That's it. Everything that's left is going to provide next year's raspberries, and I've got a really good feeling about that, because the height and density of these canes is absolutely superb. So should get another really good year next year, and we've certainly had a fantastic year this year. Got a few weeds in here which, as I've seen them, I've been pulling out, thanks to everybody's suggestion to keep the weeds at bay using grass clippings, and that seems to work really well. And this is what came out, and they were the canes that provided this year's fruit. And it's surprising, there's not that many of them, but copious amounts of fruit that was produced. And I've got a feeling it looks like it might be more next year. Good times. Well, these were the onions that didn't get infested with white rot, and I've been trying to dry them out, but we've had quite a lot of rain. Doesn't look like we're going to get an awful lot more dry weather. It's certainly 4 solid days, and there's going to be rain later today. So I think I'm going to move these to storing in the garage, which is where I keep them through the course of the winter. And they store really well, especially the globo onions. So I just take the roots off, just to get rid of the soil and the mess, and then cut a reasonable length on top, 2 to 3 inches, and that seems to sort of close down and tighten up as they dry. Well, I'll get my wheelbarrow and load the roots and the tops into that, and then they'll be ready to take them back for the storage in the garage. Well, I think we had 10 bags of onions that we froze following sorting out the ones with white rot. So loads of onion in the freezer, and these are the ones they're going to store, and we're going to be, well, not short of onions for our winter period, which is fantastic. Well, I stripped the runner beans of any that were of a reasonable size for cooking, and that was, I think, 4 days ago, and we've had 4 days of rain, and I'm figuring, in fact I can see that there are so many on here now following that bit of wet weather that need to be picked so that they can be, well, peeled and put into the freezer in their prime. That way they're not at all stringy, and you get the best outcome when you get them out of the freezer in the winter months and put them on the plate. So people have asked me quite a lot what I do with vegetables before I freeze them, and when it comes to onions, we just chop them and freeze them. Some people said they experienced them being a bit mushy when they took them out of the freezer. We've never had that. It may be down to the variety, and as you know, I grow Bedfordshire Champion, Globo and Ailsa Craig, and some Zebrune shallots, which also store quite well. When it comes to beetroot, we don't really freeze beetroot, we turn it into chutney, or at least Mrs. K does, and there's loads of recipes on the internet for that. And when it comes to beans, we just take the edges off them to get rid of the bit that's potentially stringy, and then slice them straight into bags, no blanching, and they come out just perfectly for us anyway. So as little effort as possible, and you sort of think that pre-blanching things is quite a lot of effort and of course uses quite a lot of energy. So if you can manage to prepare those without doing any of that, then you're saving all the way around. So I'm going to work my way through, see what we get out after 4 days, bearing in mind there was very little left that I would have picked to prepare. There we are then, a good sieve full. And I think the moral of the story is when you do get some rain, and I know a lot of people haven't had any rain, let alone substantial rain, the beans, if they're still soldiering on, then they're worth revisiting, because they do have a sort of a spurt when the rain comes, and that's a reasonably good crop. Put a few bags in the freezer. And well, some people have lost their beans this year, so I do feel for them. But if you've got beans that are still working hard to produce you nice long pods, then a few days rain, get onto them and you should get a decent crop. At least that's my experience. Good times. Well, I've been doing the easy stuff recently. I need to do some of the grotty work, and that is of course weeding. And I haven't looked at these leeks for some time because, well, I weeded them and I thought I'd just let them get on. But I have noticed during that insanely hot weather for the UK that we had quite a lot that have, well, started to bolt and show the bulbs on top of, or the flower forming on top of the leek. And of course that's bad news for leeks, because invariably what happens is that it produces a hard central core to the whole of the leek and it makes it virtually inedible. So I'm going to take this net off, do some long awaited weeding and just see what the extent of the damage is. So I'll do the weeding, I'll bring you back and show you where we are. Okay, let's see what the extent of the problem is. So 3 good ones. There's one there in that next row that's gone to seed. Another one here. So that's 3. Another one there, 4. Another one here, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 9, 10, 11. So out of that run of leeks, we've got 11 that have gone to seed that will be pretty much useless. So that's a shame, but I think it's a result of the rather challenging weather that we've had. So there won't be quite as many leeks this year as normal, but it has a funny way of being compensated in other areas, and I'm sure we'll have plenty to eat when everything is harvested. Well, I do hope you've enjoyed today's video. It's been a mixture of things, mainly harvesting, but a bit of forward thinking about next year with the raspberries. And if you did, well, then why not like and subscribe? And if you want to get my updates every Wednesday and every Sunday at 8 PM, then click on the bell above and you'll get notified every time I upload. I hope you've had a good week. I hope you're getting a little bit of rain. And, well, it makes all the difference, I know. Diolch yn fawr.